Hi, welcome to the Rude Dog Show. This is Rudy Reyes. Good afternoon, everybody, or in some cases, good evening, depending on what side of the coast you are on. It's 6 o'clock here, Pacific Daylight Time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am on today's California and today's Canada. And of course, everything related to the Rude Dog Show. You can find me on Twitter. I'm live right now. And if you have any questions, anything at all you want to relate, talk about, discuss, feel free to drop those comments here in the box, the lower left-hand side. I'm Rudy Reyes, and thank you for joining me this afternoon. You know, today we're going to talk about something a little bit, I don't know, and I hate to say that it's too far out of the scope of reality, but it actually is. It's about desensitization and what that actually looks like, and to give you an idea about being desensitized to things. It was supposed to have been more of an exhibition in the NBA Summer League games, as we've seen in Las Vegas, going on in the last week. And they're underway this entire week, in fact, and there's really not a way I can describe in better detail than just to say that it was a beatdown above all beatdowns with a Lakers fan who felt maybe a little bit too rambunctious when it came to being intoxicated and rooting for his team. Sometimes it just doesn't mix as well. And sadly, he was on the wrong end of what would be something that seems to be commonplace. And to kind of give you a little bit more of an insight, you can find the video on Twitter in regards to the fan who was in his 50s. Somebody else who was a fan of another team clearly did not take to him flaunting his fandom, for lack of a better term. We don't really know what was said. We do know, in fact, that one was sitting below the other as far as the tiered seating in one of the illustrious indoor arenas that we have in Las Vegas, Nevada, obviously to escape the heat. Of course, it gets a little hot out there, to say the very least. But when you're flaunting your colors a little too loud and one fan had taken offense to it, it kind of makes you wonder exactly what's going on and why someone would take this. This would be, and I would say, friendly rivalry for all intents and purposes, because we know in the NBA that players talk trash on, they talk trash off, and some players just flat out do not like each other. During free agency is a little bit different because they understand that they may need that gentleman's skill set, whoever he is, to help them move on and maybe get into a play-in round. And of course, the Lakers missing the play-in tournament this past season certainly finds himself a little bit different company with Doug Christie's son, as well as Scottie Pippen Jr., who's on the current roster. Whether or not they'll be called up from the G League to play and be active on the Lakers roster this year remains to be seen, but it's going to get worse before it gets better when we're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm not going to talk too much about that. That's for another time, another show, another place. But of course, the only place that matters is TheRudeDogShow.com. And I'm Rudy Reyes. I'm your host. Follow me on Twitter at RudeDogReyes. When you have a TKO artist in the stands who eventually landed more punches than Tyson in the last bout that Tyson had faced, and by no way, shape, or form do I condone this type of behavior, and it shouldn't even exist. Shouldn't happen in the NBA. It shouldn't happen in Summer League. It shouldn't happen in the NFL. It shouldn't happen anywhere. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast when you, again, mix the poisons and you cross those poisons up when we're talking about alcohol, fandom, keeping yourself under control, which some people cannot do. And if for those that believe that this is going to be condoned by professional sporting leagues like the NBA, like the NFL, need to be either banned for life or fined so severely that will disable them from actually showing up in any games anytime soon, albeit the Staples Center / crypto stadium.com. I'm trying to think of the actual name. They keep, I don't know. It'll always be Staples Center to me, regardless of what they call after the fact. It's always been Staples Center, always be Staples Center as far as I'm concerned. And of course, you guys probably have the same feelings that I do in regards to as far as what that stadium looks like and what the names and feelings, the emotions, the things that you gather from being there, the memories you share, the ones you wish you can get away from. And of course, the ones that you will always have resident in your mind, which is always great to know that everybody has great and fond memories of where they actually seen a game play, regardless of the sport. For one, I believe that if you go watch a meaningless summer league game where you spend tons of money on, you're traveling, there's a hotel room involved, you purchase some of your favorite team's memorabilia, all of that costs money, and all of that is time. And when you waste your time thinking that you're going to go there, you're going to, have a good time, and not be inebriated and not drink so much that you're in the, I don't know, the dumb zone, as I like to call it, it really makes one believe that you have to be able to recognize that you have a limit. Everybody has a limit. I have a limit. You have a limit. Everybody has a limit. And I can only imagine that now we feel as though these types of things that happen within events, fights, brawls, things like that, really is what we're desensitized to. Now we're almost to a point where it's commonplace. Well, somebody gets in a fight, no big deal. It happens. Maybe he shouldn't have said anything. Maybe he should have said something. Maybe he should have spoken up. Whatever analogy you want to use, the bottom line to all this is that when you look at what keeps happening throughout these games, it takes away from the luster of actually wanting to go to a professional game. Now, with that being said, it wasn't like this, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. And I'll use myself as an example. I went to the San Diego area to attend a Final Four game between both the Auburn Tigers and the Clemson Tigers. Of course, they had a Tiger dance-off. One was better than the other, but there was no brawls. There were no fights. There were no obscene gestures that I'd witnessed from any fans that were in the stadium. And I don't know, it's because they don't detest the NCAA games as they would the NFL games or NBA games or any other sporting game other than NCAA. Perhaps it's the institution. Perhaps they respect the institution. I'm sure you have them from time to time, depending on where you're at and what actual state that you're in. Or maybe they don't allow alcohol in some of them, and all that's available are soft drinks or water, Gatorade, and such. But I recognize that this is all about fun and time and spending valuable memories, creating with your family and friends. But things like this need to stop. I don't know what Adam Silver's thoughts are about this. I'd like to hear him and his thought process as to how this can almost ruin the game of basketball, because now you have families that aren't involved in these brawls, that are just mere spectators, are sitting on the sidelines wondering, is this going to happen to me? Am I going to be brought in and dragged into an event that perhaps is really none of my business, none of my concern? Why should I be a part of this? This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Today's California, live on Twitter. Feel free to retweet, love, like, share, comment, anything you might have, any thoughts in regards to what's going on with these NBA games. Feel free to reach out to me. Of course, I'm always looking for advertisers as well. If you want to advertise on the show, we can certainly set something up. Feel free to email me at TheRudeDogShow@hotmail.com. That's TheRudeDogShow@hotmail.com. Thought I'd make it easy, simple, quick, and peasy. When I look at the NBA regular season, I think to myself, well, now we could be on to something. But I don't know that desensitized fans need to, I don't know, again, be a part of the situation. I don't know that I would go. I don't know that I would take my kids, because I recognize that sometimes people don't know how to hold their own, or there could be some underlying theme, maybe understanding that there's a hard lesson learned in all of this. There could be legal ramifications, outcomes to these types of altercations, these fights, and it's a knockdown, drag out type of situation. Someone who's more athletically gifted, and this is what I wanted to close out this opening thought about is that if you look at somebody who's athletically more gifted, they're almost relatively intimidating because they're 6'7" and you're 5'1", and they have one muscle that can knock you from here to eternity. You might want to think about that twice before looking at them oddly, or saying something obscene, or maybe making an obscene gesture. Just go about your business. Simply enjoy the game. Don't worry about everybody else. Just worry about yourself and having fun. Now, when you look at this from a legal ramification standpoint, and you can go as far as to assume perhaps that the pounding that Lakers fan felt could have been assault with a deadly weapon. The guy's arms, maybe his muscles were deadly weapons. Maybe his mere intimidating imposition was enough to prevent this inebriated Lakers fan to take part of something that he knew it was going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight, and he'd be the one being dragged out on a stretcher. I don't know. But legalese, if you will, he could get him for assault and battery. The guy only threw a hat. It's not as if he was throwing razor blades or a saw blade or, throwing darts or anything else. It was a hat that landed on the guy's lap. He took just a step too far. He recognized that perhaps, and after all this is said and done, you had 3 people getting involved. At least that's what the video had shown. Maybe even 4 people in regards to calming this particular bruiser, TKO artist, whatever you want to call him, to a point where he's down on the ground. And thank you, Pushpa Sharma. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much. I'd know where everybody's from. That'd be great as well. If I'm asking too much, let me know. But I certainly like the commentary. Feel free to reach out. Thank you, Pushpa. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The bottom line is that this could be nothing to do about nothing, meaning that cops would come in, they'd have the conversation. Well, who started it? This guy. Well, what happened? He swung, I swung, he swung, I swung. I was basically being pelted with an array of left and right hooks and combos. And again, probably nothing to do about nothing, because you don't go on and intimidate someone and say, well, it wasn't me, I didn't do anything. Well, when you tried to intimidate someone, being the one who's getting your face beat into like a bloody pulp, then perhaps you need to be really watchful in regards to what you say, how you say it, and who you speak to. That could have better outcomes than putting yourself in harm's way. In more not so violent NBA news, there are a lot of comments coming from the very outspoken, very outgoing. I'm saying outgoing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad problem to have. And say what you want, even if you get a technical foul call on you. Draymond Green having a conversation today in regards to coming to the defense of Kevin Durant, out of all people, former Warrior himself, in regards to Zubin Mehetni of ESPN, who basically stated, and I quote, I mean, he's an emotional guy. Anything could happen. And that's almost to suggest, if you wanted to take it that way, maybe not being objective, to recognize that he could be soft. He could be. I don't know. Green played with him. If anybody knows a little bit more about him and what the intangibles are in regards to who Kevin Durant is, maybe he has more insight than we do. I can almost guarantee that he does. However, when you look at what actually happened, I mean, you have no reason to mischaracterize someone. And when you look at the definitions of where this came from and the merit to Mehetni about Durant, because Durant is made to feel, I don't know, uncomfortable perhaps, or that he's not the man, because that's what happened at the Golden State Warriors camp. He wasn't the man. Stephen Curry was a man. Klay Thompson was a man. Draymond Green was a man. Iguodala, who played a much bigger role at that time when Durant was there, also the man. So I don't know that this is a non-serious situation when you're talking about Kevin Durant, and the fact alone that he's having issues now finding a way to get out of the Brooklyn Nets organization after signing a 4-year deal worth millions and millions of dollars, because he's not comfortable. And that could be that, that could attest to him not being very calm, not being hard enough, maybe not a hard enough shell to warrant other people saying negative things about him, or maybe it's the way that he feels about himself because he's not the man within those respective systems. It's hard to say. I'm not going to assume naturally that Kevin Durant is soft like margarine, but what I'm not going to say is that I can be objective about this, and you can go any direction you want. However, when Mehetni made that statement about Durant, and it was designed to, I don't know, maybe feel uncomfortable in regards to that topic or that conversation. And when I look at the ugly head, when we're talking about what Kevin Durant has done, leaving teams when he's not comfortable, leaving teams when they're losing, that could actually suggest that there's something more to this than what meets the eye. When we're talking about Kevin Durant, his personality, his attitude, especially towards not only his teammates, but the situation that he finds himself in through the various teams that he's been on, from Oklahoma City, Golden State, as well as now the Brooklyn Nets. I suspect that he'll find a way to stay on the Brooklyn Nets team because it's guaranteed monies. I mean, the owner is rich, but he's not going to throw something at the wall and expect it to stick. And we're talking about Kevin Durant, who needs to make up his mind in regards to where he's going to go, what he's going to do. And if there's a package, it's going to be a litany of different teams, buying in 3-way trades, 4-way trades, 5-way trades. It just gets out of control to soften the blow that he could otherwise leave the Brooklyn Nets holding onto in dead cap money. The 4-year multi-million-dollar deal almost has felt as though the circumstances surrounding him were maybe not ideal. And the fact alone that, look, everybody's emotional over something. If you're feeling uncomfortable, you're going to make it known. You're going to say something. And if you don't, that's the most deadliest component, is by not being able to let out that frustration in the avenues in a positive direction that allow for you to feel better about that. And look, I'm not the only one to say that the reason why Mehetni said what he said was because he wanted to throw a black eye at Kevin Durant. No. What I'm saying is that when you look at Green's further comments about it, he says, just watched an anchor on SportsCenter with Nick Friedel discussing KD wanting to trade and called him emotional. Again, there's that word emotional again. Who are you to call someone emotional? What makes you comfortable? Talk basketball, computers got you all very uncomfortable. Interesting. I don't know that the computer has Mehetni uncomfortable or not in a comfort zone, whatever that looks like. Draymond didn't take the liking to the comment by Mehetni, obviously, and so much to assume that media has no idea what's going on, or maybe to even suggest that media members don't have a right to make an objective observation is, well, ludicrous. Furthermore, indicative of himself being emotional, and yet the media has no justifiable reason, despite Green himself is a walking box of tissue when it comes to emotional and how he plays that out on the court. Switching gears here, we're talking about the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby. Yes, I said I would talk about baseball. I'm going to give it a moment of glory because it is a sport, and before the NFL became such a powerhouse, this is exactly where Major League Baseball is at. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Today's California. Make sure you tune in, like it, love it, share it, comment, Twitter, Facebook, live on YouTube, you name it. I am all over it like white on rice. So we looked at the Home Run Derby last year, and a couple of people I want to give a shout out to is Pete Alonso, who just made it look just almost too easy. I mean, he's called a polar bear for a reason because he's ice cold. And when you win 2 Major League Baseball titles back to back, he's only the third player to ever go back to back. And furthermore, he has his sights set on the third, which I like. I like a competitive, not only competitive, but somebody who can certainly make a mark in regards to the Home Run Derby, and the fact that he gets to match Ken Griffey Jr. for the most wins in the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby in history. He's also 131 homers in his 2 Derby appearances, and almost set a single round record. 2021, he had done that. He went 33 times deep in the first round against Salvador Perez. And then you have the I guess I want to say not really a runner-up, but somebody who certainly has a great arm, knows how to throw, solid batter, who was basically I don't want to say snubbed, but he certainly showed up in a way that perhaps nobody remembers second or runner-up for that matter, and that's Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves. He's making a second trip, which is a good thing to have, knowing he has that competitive spirit, the competitive edge to come back to make something out of absolutely, well, I'm not going to say nothing because he was certainly holding on to that the last time around in 2019. But he made a strong impression, 44 cracks, homers, 450 feet. He topped out at about a 469 feet. I'd like to see if he has what he had last year or maybe the year before that, being able to multitask and hitting some serious dingers. I'd like to see him come back and have that same type of ferocity. When we're talking about 7-year hiatus, 42-year-old Pujols will return in the Home Run Derby stage in his final major league season. Don't forget, last year he spent his time with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, batted pretty hot, I must say, but going back to the team that actually drafted him. But it's his 5th appearance. I mean, the guy is going to take some kiss to skull in some way, shape, or form, and I hope he does. This is the last season in major leagues. He's going to retire, but he's up there with guys like Ken Griffey Jr., Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Prince Fielder, Barry Reynolds, as well as David Ortiz, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has 684 home runs and fifth most all time, which is a great problem to have. And then here comes Juan Soto, the Nationals. This guy has been extremely resilient. I like what he brings. He's obviously his second straight appearance at the Home Run Derby, and he put on a show last year. He was the underdog going into it, clearly the underdog heading out of it, and ended up as the number 8 seed in 2021. And I really like that battle between him and Shohei Ohtani. It was just something of beauty to watch. It was a battle back and forth. They were basically playing ping pong, but with a baseball and a bat. And it was fantastic. I loved watching it. And it was something that you really look at and think to yourself, man, can Ohtani get back? Can Juan Soto and these guys and Shohei Ohtani go back to back to back and just keep playing that ping pong match that I loved to watch last year? It was fantastic. But we'll see what happens if he comes through as he did last year in Colorado. Kyle Schwarber for the Phillies. This guy is more of a hit than a miss. Obviously, he's going to the Home Run Derby, and more importantly, entering Tuesday, he leads the National League with 28 homers, which is again a great problem to have. Making his second appearance, and then the finals in the 2018 event, while hitting 55 homers, while beating Alex Bregman of the Astros. Yeah, I know you can hold your negative applause for that one. Alex Bregman, certainly part of that Houston Astros scandal. Of course, we won't go into that. That's another time, another place. And I've already talked about it on the show, in fact, to the point of death. So when I look at this, I like Bryce Harper, Rice Hoskins, and these guys are going to go at it for sure. And then, of course, last but not least, Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners. He's been ready for the Derby for quite some time. He's been posting on social media here and there. I want to see him take this thing all the way to the end. I'd like to see him win this, but you're going to have to beat out some very stiff competition. And of course, his first home run off, it was like a 450 shot drop on May 1st. And certainly AL Rookie of the Month doesn't help anybody else as a part of this matchup, because he'll have to face off with them as well. So I like to see what he brings. Alonso, Aaron Judge, only rookies to win this Home Run Derby from beginning to end. Wally Joyner is a co-champ with Darryl Strawberry in 86. So this is going to be very interesting. There's still a couple spots to fill. I think they're going to fill it. Who they're going to fill it with, that remains to be seen. But I certainly do love watching the Home Run Derby. It's a little repetitive at times because you know all they're doing is hitting home runs, but it's not the home run itself, it's how you hit them. You're going to get all of that. Of course, you have the pitchers behind the safety net, which could be the coaches, the pitching coach, maybe a fellow player on the same team that you're on. You have your pick, basically, to find out who's going to be that guy to pitch that ball to you in order for you to hit that thing out of the park. So we're going to find out who's going to control that, who's going to be a part of that, and who ultimately will win the entire Home Run Derby. It has to be fun. I do like watching the All-Star game, though, I must admit, but there's nothing like a Home Run Derby and how these guys are going to hit these balls, hit them constantly, consistently, and very frequently. And I hope every single one of these guys enjoys themselves. It's certainly an honor to be there. If you're one of these guys, they've all obviously had made a case to get them to this point, and I think they're going to continue doing great things, not only for Major League Baseball, but for their respective teams. So I thought I'd give my 2 cents in on that one. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I certainly appreciate it. Make sure you find this show on TheRudeDogShow.com. I'm going to put a replay of this tomorrow as well. Go to TheRudeDogShow.com. I have 8 years worth of interviews, conversations, Radio Rows, SB Words, you name it, you're going to find it there. And again, if you want to advertise with me, the Rude Dog Show at hotmail.com. I have a lot of great stuff. I got some great upcoming guests, so stay tuned for that one. Again, this is Rudy Reyes on Today's California. Find me on Twitter. Follow me there. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere you are connected to on social media and beyond. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great night.